I do a very little bit of yoga. Um, very little. And
how
like,
little is
like
it?
so little that it really counts as not really doing yoga at all, I think.
Well, come on. Our listeners demand more detail.
Okay, here's it is. Downward dog into scooping down into upward dog. There's a name for that. Something or other. And then like 5 times. And then Utkatasana, which is a squat. And I hold that for a while. And then I just press that up into a standing and then I kind of lower my arms out to the side like I've really accomplished something. And then I, go grab a burger.
Right.
And a shake.
How long does this routine take?
About 45 seconds. I do about 45 seconds of yoga, I think.
Why do any
Almost
yoga at all?
Fail. Why do it at all? That's the question, I think.
I mean, if you're going to do 45 seconds, why do it at all? I mean,
because actually it feels good. And, it's like 5 difficult push-ups.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think it's a good thing.
Well, I got a mat.
Ooh.
That's where I'm at.
You got a mat and you're going to do I think you should embrace my 45-second routine. I think
I could do a little better than that. I mean, no offense. I'm not like a yoga master.
Transform your body in 45 seconds with Jim. I'm not saying how it will be transformed, but it will. You'll be surprised.
You'll be duly surprised. No, I bought a mat. I put my little Bose speaker on the window. Yeah. I took the guest bedroom. I pushed the bed against the wall. Got a mat.
Yep.
I have 2, I think they're 10-pound weights, dumbbells. Got those. I got my speaker. So I put on my tunes. I put on some classical music or some jazz. And I did it 2 days ago. And it's just, just some very basic stuff. Just mainly stretching. That's really all I'm trying to do because I don't think I have any stretch in me at all.
Right.
So I'm just sitting there like trying to touch my toes, quite frankly, which is quite an adventure. And just like turning this way and turning that way. But then I do something with the barbells because my arms are really weak. Mm-hmm. So I try to do something to start stretching out the muscles of my arms. But it's in its infancy, shall we say? It's in its early days. So,
well, aren't we the modern men?
We are. I feel good because there are things do change.
Oh yeah.
I don't smoke cigars.
Yep.
At all, and
That's good.
Smoke. And God forbid my insurance company ever gets a hold of these podcasts because I'm dead meat.
It's all fiction.
It's all, yes. Speaking for a friend, they smoked cigars for 10 years straight.
I knew a guy.
I knew a guy who smoked cigars every day for 10 years.
Oh God.
And then stopped.
Thank goodness that wasn't you.
Oh, yeah. That and also the fact that the same self-described friend now takes a walk around the park at least once a day, if not twice a day. Not that
that's
it has
awesome. Can you talk about that? That I thought that was so inspiring, and I've been trying to do it, and I have yet to achieve immediate launch.
I will repeat what I said before. Let me just move a little closer to the mic. Let me repeat the story I told before, which is one of my favorite stories, which is, and I highly recommend. Michael Lewis wrote Moneyball, and then as a result of writing Moneyball, people told him he was really writing about Kahneman and Tversky, 2 Israeli psychologists who won the Nobel, won the Pulitzer, whatever, it was some kind of prize for something. Mm-hmm. And Lewis went on to write a book called The Undoing Project, which I don't think is it's not one of his better books.
Right.
But it's a very, very interesting, it's very funny book. It's a book basically about a love affair. A bromance between these 2 guys. It's really, and that's an interesting story because it's a story about a creative duet, and how those are really strange beasts. A creative duet, 2 people who work together and achieve great things. And many times it's a really weird relationship. It's a really bizarre relationship. And there's a lot of great creative duets, Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on. But anyway, but the rock star, the extrovert of this duet was Tversky, and everybody loved him, and he was great, and he was just a rock god in the academic world. And he had this thing where he would just like walk out of meetings that completely bored him. He would just get up and just walk out.
I love that.
And then people would say, "Hey, I think is it Noam Tversky? I think it's Noah or Noam. Anyway,
I don't know."
They said, "Where are you going?" And he'd always have this great explanation about why he was like walking out of the meeting mid-sentence. Like they would say, "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh, no, no, no." They're like, "Oh, okay. And he'd go out there. And finally somebody sat down with him and said, "Is this true?" He said, "No."
Why do you really leave?
He said, "No." He says, "The whole point," he says, the whole thing is the moment you determine that you do not want to stay at the meeting anymore, you stand up and you start walking. That's the key. The moment the thought crosses your head, like a dragonfly crossing the surface of a pond, the moment you realize you do not want to be in this meeting anymore, you stand up and you start walking towards the door. Because he says you'd be amazed about how creative your mind becomes and how fluidly, how wonderfully adept you can become at coming up with explanations in like the 3 seconds it takes for people to suddenly say, "Hey, where are you going? We're having a meeting here. Why are you leaving?" He says, your brain is, the act of walking towards the door so energizes your brain that you can come up with these amazing explanations about why you're leaving me.
Oh my God.
And so I spent months thinking about walking around the park. That's a block and a half, not a block and a half, but 2 blocks from my house. It's a big park. Mm-hmm. Oh, my friend has a big park. Anyway, I'll speak as if I am my friend. And
well, that part is good.
And I was like, okay, so what kind of shoes do I need to wear? Right. And am I gonna listen to a podcast? And if I'm going to listen to a podcast, which one am I going to listen to? And am I going to use like headphones? And that looks stupid. But do I have this earpiece? And is the earpiece charged up? And is it going to pair with my phone correctly? And the phone, it's kind of hard playing podcasts, so like that. Then one day I was standing in my room and I thought, should I go walking around the park? And I said, well, the podcast and and I was like, and then my body just lurched towards the door. I said, we're going.
Yeah.
And I just walked out the door.
Right.
I didn't care about what shoes I was wearing, what clothes I was wearing, anything. I just said, I got to get out. I got to, you have to begin.
Yeah.
You just got to begin. Like my favorite line from The Martian, you just begin. And it works great because I figured out that I don't need a podcast. Like if you're in nature, there's always something going on. You know, a branch has fallen here, or somebody's walking their dog, or there's a squirrel, or the sun is reflecting off the water in a very special way, or all of a sudden you never notice those beautiful trees over there, those trees over there. And you don't need a podcast. You don't, at least I don't.
Well, it's better. No, and I think it is better. I think you're to go out and be distracted, of course, is good for your body, but not great for your mind. And going out to be present is something that's good for your mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, even if you're with your thoughts, that's fine. Right. I was reminded of a great quote by the great Conroy Garbo, the maven of business wisdom that he is, and he said the best way to begin is to start.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I was
his advice blindly.
Well, along those lines, that triggered something else I've been thinking about a lot recently. There's 2 commercials. I get presented ads on YouTube when I watch the incredibly intellectual fare that I watch on YouTube. I get presented with ads. And one ad I keep getting presented with is this ad that begins by showing this beautifully illuminated high-end PC, tower PC with like the fans illuminated with blue LEDs.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. And the voiceover says, this is what the world's most advanced PC looks like. And I'm like, well, is it the world's most advanced PC or is it just something that looks like the world? Because I don't want to buy something that looks like the world's most advanced PC. I want to buy the most advanced PC. Like, you've lost me in the first sentence. And then the other ad, sort of along the similar lines, I just love these ads that have these very ponderous these very ponderous, solemn openings. And like, whenever you think of LL Bean, you think about this boot. I don't think about LL Bean. I'm going to interrupt you right here.
When did that happen?
I don't think about LL Bean in any way whatsoever. And that PC, I don't want that one because that's just what the PC looks like. I actually want the PC. Man, this is what the world's most advanced boot looks like when you think of LL Bean. Like, okay, yeah. So that's sort of that's sort of like the Conroy Garbo thing, which is these surrealistic these. It's like Yogi Berra is composing your ad campaign. Yeah. You can observe a lot by just watching. One of my favorite Yogi Berra ones.
That's right.
Yeah, he's out. No way of arguing. So, so things do change. And I walk around the park at least once a day. That'll soon come to an end because it's starting to turn into Ice Station Zebra now.
Yeah.
But I'm doing that and the cigar thing, and nothing has changed. I'm still as fat as I've ever been. I still feel like crap. So, hooray! Let's hear it for personal improvement. Anyway, so we're going to. But you're talking about yoga.
Yeah, I was talking about yoga. Yeah,
and you and I have been wrestling with this book.
Yeah, I know it takes 2 podcasts to handle this book. I would say, hopefully, let's just limit it to 2. Because it's a beast. And it is, let me bring it up here. It is Buddhism, A Journey Through History by Donald S. Lopez Jr. And we had read some of it. And then I went on and read more of it. And I stopped right before the last chapter, which I really regret. The last 2 chapters are wrath and writing. And it follows women. And women broke my heart so much. It was really hard to move on from there. But how far did you make it to the very end?
No, I got to 75%, and at that point, I'm like, okay, I've really pulled one. I've pulled one for the Buddha here. I've earned time off in purgatory. My wheel of reincarnation should be fairly brief at this point.
It's not a bad book. I want to make it clear.
It's not a bad book. It's not.
It's exhausting and exhaustive. It's not a great book. No. Yeah. I mean, the way he decides to do this. I don't know. It's I guess it's like the experience in the Bardo. Like everything is happening in a kind of out of order. It's hard to put it all together. You have to remember terms that are really hard to remember. It's hard to remember who he's talking about because the names. It's not like if you followed one character, then we get used to it. Okay, this is this dude. And we'd kind of, like Nagarjuna, let's just do Nagarjuna and the Madhyamaka and the Mahayana and its impact on Buddhism in this point in history. That'd be great. Right. But we just keep hitting on Nagarjuna throughout these different themes that he has.
Right.
So we understand Nagarjuna through the lens of women, through the lens of writings, through the lens of
science. And it generally moves forward. It's almost like a helical scan. Like it starts really early and it goes 1,000 years forward, and then then for the next chapter it rewinds back maybe 700 years and goes forward, which is kind of interesting. But boy, you got to really, really like Jerry Seinfeld said, the guy who invented head cheese must have been really, really hungry. You got to be really invested in Buddhism.
Yeah, you do. You do, and I applaud you for just making it 75% of the way. It's pretty complex stuff.
And what is yoga's relationship to Buddhism, if any? I don't think there is any relationship. But he makes some kind of statement at some point that yoga is not really yoga; it's something else, and it's blah blah blah.
Yeah, so Yogacara, like the tantric practices are referred to as yoga. Now, I never did the tantric practices, although they were offered through the meditation center that I was going to, and it was sort of like those are the higher level practices. And I'm like, I'm not higher level. I'm definitely an intermediate. So I stopped at Mahayana. But that hierarchy of practices is kind of weird because it does, from the point of view from within it, is you're kind of downplaying the Theravada, then you're saying the Mahayana is more advanced, and then you're saying the Vajrayana is more advanced than that. And that's really insulting to people who just practice the Theravada, or what the Mahayana is called the Hinayana. Um, so I don't know, but the reason that they call it Vajrayana yoga is that it involves the senses and it does involve some physical activity. But it's not, it's not yoga as we think of it in the West, certainly.
Right.
I mean, like there's a dedication practice, right? You do a kind of supplication, and you have to do 100,000 of them.
Who does and why and
A
when
student of the
and where?
Vajrayana will, and I hope I'm not giving away secrets here. There's also, it's couched in secrecy, like these are dangerous practices, and you don't want to just tell people about them. And I don't know, it's very culty, honestly.
It's like the
Um,
dark arts.
yeah, there's you have to have what's called transmission of the practices from a master, and
Hmm.
it's very guru focused, and there's dedication to the guru, and that's I'm not I don't play that. So um I mean, I suppose if there was somebody that I trusted, but I didn't quite trust the dude. So yeah, I mean, you do like a kind of uh you do a kind of a yoga thing in the supplication. So it's like you stand on a mat, and then you do like a mountain pose, and then down to a sort of a downward dog, but then you kind of, I think you'd slide into a kind of completely prone position where you're lying flat on the floor with
Right.
your hands like together over your head,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get back up, and you have a chant that you say with this, and you get back up and you do it again. And after you've done the second one, that's two, and you've only got 99,997 to go.
Okay. And why are you? I mean, what is the offered explanation as to versus what? Like, if it wasn't yoga, what would it just be? Would it just be meditating? I mean, is there? What are you doing? I mean, why are you doing this? Like, we in the Christian tradition, there's prayer,
Yeah.
which doesn't involve any physical activity. It's mainly a mental activity, and you do it to, to ask higher powers to intercede on your behalf.
Hmm.
It's a conversation. It's a supplication, like you
Yep.
said. It's a supplication.
Yep.
So you're doing this all these physical activities. It's basically the same thing. It's a supplication. It's an act of faith.
It does seem to be like, yeah, it's like a kind of a supplication. Now, so this is the fast track to enlightenment, right? This is how Vajrayana students will say, I'm on the fast track, right? I've gotten off your slow lane and I'm just zipping through. I could maybe get enlightened within one lifetime instead of 100,000 or a million lifetimes or whatever it takes.
By doing what? By doing these physical activities
Yeah, you're
rather than just sitting there.
wearing out your body, and you're wearing out your mind, and you're wearing out your ego, and and
Oh,
they're rigorous, they're tough. It's like extreme, not extreme sports, but it's the extreme version of certainly what I do. Like what I do is hardly yoga, and somebody who practices a lot of hot yoga would be so like, you're just not doing anything, and I am
right.
basically not doing anything. Um, but I will probably be able to keep that up better than doing a whole routine every day. So I'm just going to do that, and if it grows, it grows. That's fine.
Yep.
So I'm not in a hurry. Let's say maybe I should be in terms of my physical health, but I'm not in a hurry. And some people, they don't want to wait 100,000 lifetimes to reach the ultimate state of consciousness. They want to do it now, and
Okay.
so they're going to wear out their karma. They're going to wear out their ego,
Is that
and
really
they're
what the
going
thought is? You're going to wear it out?
to, yeah, I think it is. It's like a grinding down. It's like more of a grinding down than
Huh.
kind of regular meditation practice. But regular meditation practice also fits within yoga. I mean, traditional yoga. We don't use it in the West because nobody cares about how your mind is in the West. They care about how good your abs look, right? They care about, how
Yeah.
your glutes look. And that's what they're doing in the West is like conditioning the body
Right.
and
It's an
leaving the
exercise
mind out.
routine.
Yeah.
Yoga's, I mean, I don't know, but it seems like yoga is an exercise routine and it's meant for, I'm not sure whether it's for flexibility or whether
Hmm.
it's for cardio or for it's just to look good and to, it's like Pilates, which we discussed before. It's
Right.
about tweaking this muscle and that. I don't know. I don't know what yoga's.
In the East, it's not. In the East, it is mind and body. And we only get the body side here. So,
Right, but they're not even trying to do it because to make themselves look good or to endure or anything like that. You say they're doing the body part to grind down. So anyway,
so we were talking about yoga. So
right.
now, all right, now we have a limited amount of time today. So I definitely want to get on to where you thought the highlights were. And I can list off the chapters. I've got them here. So
Eh,
I'm guessing you made it to about
I made it to
rule.
75%.
So
I remember the
maybe
science one. I did
self.
this. Yeah, I think self. I got to
Okay.
self.
Well, you know what? It goes downhill from there because the next one is sex,
I
society,
saw that. I read
war,
that one. That
women,
one.
wrath. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was just trying to get a sense, like, what's
It's all accurate. Yeah.
what's
As far
this
as I can tell.
about? Like, what is Buddhism about? And to a certain degree, I think everything, anything interesting I have to say, I said in the last one, which is that it's really different from
Yeah.
Christianity. It's really different
Yeah.
in like virtually every possible way. Like, there's no church. Like, the congregation is not invited to participate, really.
Traditionally, no, but
Right.
it's different in the West. And I don't remember, he didn't, that was one thing I thought was missing was of the people who took Buddhism to the West, there was Suzuki Roshi out of Japan, right? I think that's who it was. And there was Chogyam Trungpa and the Dalai Lama eventually. But
Mhm.
Chogyam Trungpa was pretty early. In the early 70s, he he moved from Tibet, he moved from Dharamsala to England. And then he set up these retreat centers in these giant mansions, the old estates.
Mhm.
And people would come and sit, and he developed his teaching technique from there. And you can see videos of him, Chogyam as Chogyamtrunpa. You can see his instruction. And he's sitting, I think he developed this very much in England. He's sitting there, he's wearing a suit, right?
Mhm.
And he's drunk because he was drunk pretty much all the time after his car accident. So you can kind of tell he's a little lit, but his instruction is also incredibly clear and simple. So for all the negative things one can say about Chogyam Trungpa, and there are plenty, his instructions in terms of meditation and mindfulness are just amazingly clear and kind of brilliant. And to deal with him, you have to kind of deal with that paradox. I I love his teachings. I think they're fantastic.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have wanted to be among his core group. I think
Acolytes.
that his acolytes. I think that would have been very confusing. Um, but yeah, I mean, he developed a Western technique of meditation, and to some extent, what came out of Japan to the West and what came out of Tibet is what we know in the West, and that is we practice kind of monastic a monastic version of Buddhism in terms of the practice of meditation, but we don't go around begging for food, and we don't.
Right.
It's a secular monastic practice that
Mhm.
was put together by these two individuals,
And
basically.
there's a lot of them nowadays.
Yeah,
I wonder if it was like the DNA for a lot of this stuff. You know,
right. Oh, a
Iron
lot of other
Man.
stuff too. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna live a life. According to these very strict principles. You
Hmm.
know, I'm gonna be a hermit. or I'm going to live according to very, very strict principles, strict dietary things, strict, religious observation, bodybuilding. There's certain core components that show up time and time again: diet, exercise, sex,
Yeah.
the biggies, food and sex,
Yeah.
and personal appearance. And but I just think it's interesting that you just have none of that thing in Christianity and Islam. There's no mosque. There's no church. There's no place dedicated to where lay people can come and participate in a ritual. There are monasteries, quote unquote monasteries, or whatever you want to call them, but it's very much like we said last time. If you are, it's really about the people who adopt the practice. It really doesn't say anything about anybody outside the practice. Either, you adopt, if you're going to become a novice, if you're going to commit yourself to this, but there's nothing there that really speaks to like the general population. I don't think there's not this idea that the general populace is going to be reading any of this stuff. The general populace is there to give
Right.
alms and to benefit from the sanctity of these people living in their midst. But that's about it. But honestly, other than handing food over, the populace really, the Buddhists are not there to save people. They're not shepherds. They're not shepherds of a flock.
Right. Yeah, they're not shepherding a flock. That's true. And again, we are drawing a distinction between Buddhism and the West that
Right.
Lopez just doesn't seem to go into at all. And Buddhism prior to it coming to the West, which he does go into extensively. And you're right, it does seem like a kind of a removed society. It interacts with society on economic levels.
Yes.
And it interacts with society in familial ways. So, often that's why a lot of laws came up about marriage and monks and sex and monks, which of course leads to families and monks. And a lot of rules had to be created. And when they were made for women, they were like 10 times harder,
Right.
which
There's a
was very
lot of the
disappointing.
book is Lopez really hammers away on monastic rules.
Yeah.
Like the whole story about, the Buddha said there's major rules and minor rules. And just before he died, he said you can ignore the minor rules, but no, he must have mentioned that at least 10 separate times.
That's
I'm
right.
like, okay, dude, we get it. We get
But
it.
then the guy who was writing it down was like, I don't know what your major and what your minor, so let's just do all of them.
Right, but it's if we're talking about the book, one of the annoying things about the book is that he really does seem to be obsessive about a couple of things, and it's really a mystery why. Like he keeps hammering on that thing of, well, they forgot what the minor rules are, so they just practice all the rules, and there's 600 rules for these and 600.
Right.
I'm like, okay, dude. And the other thing that the Buddhists seem to really, really be in love with is making lists and lists of lists and lists of lists of lists.
That remains, and that is the Dharma, right? So I will read the chapter on the writings, because that actually I will find really interesting, because apparently there's more Buddhist literature written than any other religious tradition.
By far.
It's just exhaustive. And yes, everything's in a numbered list. The 5 foundations of mindfulness, the 10 perfections, the 5 hindrances to meditation, the 3 jewels, the 4 noble truths, the 51 states of mind. It's incredible.
It's like we can live a life according to the truth, the 100,000th digit of pi, and to a certain degree, that really turns me off.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is, let's hear it for the New Testament. I mean, it's only like 100 pages long, right?
Yeah.
Like the New Testament is a novella. I mean, it's not very long, and there's not a lot about lists. There really isn't. And what it is it's an instruction for how everybody should live. Everybody should live this way. Whereas when you talk about Buddhism, it's really arcane literature. It's literature for a certain group of people who wish to participate in it, who wish to live their lives according to it. And if you're out there and fine, whatever. You people out there, you go do your thing. we're not really terribly interested in what you do.
Well, let me moderate that a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
I think the way it was taken was it all follows the Four Noble Truths. So, number one, life sucks.
Mhm.
It's not satisfying, which is an interesting thing to start with. Life is not satisfying, and the reason it's not satisfying is things pass away. In fact, everything passes away, and to live is to live with everything passing away.
Mhm.
And this is suffering, right? And the mind hates it because the mind wants permanence. Well, there's a cause for suffering. It's the mind some way, but it's also kind of the ego. It's this story we tell about ourselves. And so we cause a lot of our own suffering ourselves. We can't just accept the way things happen. We have to make a story out of it. And then the other one is there's a goal. The goal is cessation of suffering. How about that? And if you want that, there's a path that leads to that goal.
Right.
And for thousands of years, that path led through monastic orders. That path led through begging bowls and chanting and tons of rules about how you behave. And when it came to the West, they were like, well, let's not do all that. You're not going to fall for that one. So why don't we just say you got to sit 10 minutes? You got to sit for 10 minutes,
Mhm.
But then, of course, then also the Vajrayana comes along as well. If you want to get on the express path, you got to burn everything and you got to, do these ridiculously difficult exercises. 100,000 of anything is really, and I know people who've done them.
I mean,
And
all at
they
once?
they
You
feel
mean
good about it. No,
in
when
one?
it takes, I don't know. One person I know took a year
Sure.
to 100,000 prostrations, right? And these are devotional, right? So it's humiliating to your ego. You're putting yourself below, and you're doing prostrations. And this is actually all to speed the passage towards a complete understanding of reality, which doesn't end with you being below everything. It actually is a little more complicated than that. But it's designed to kind of burn off your karma, I suppose.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He
I mean,
doesn't.
I
He
never
doesn't really
did this
discuss that.
practice.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's very much a book about traditional Buddhism. Buddhism up to around 1900, thousands of years, hundreds of years ago,
Right.
thousands of years ago. But strangely enough, he doesn't really talk a lot about the behavior of these Buddhists. Like nowhere does he say, okay, well, let's look at an average community in China. There would
Mhm.
probably be a monastery with this many people in it, and every day they do this, and Buddhists got involved in these historical episodes. There's none of that. There's really almost virtually none of that discussion. It's really about, it's really odd. It's really odd how he talks about it. Because I was really expecting him to say, oh, hey, there is this war, or,
Well, he did. He talked about a couple of wars in which the kingdoms in China and the Philippines, no, in I forget where, East Asian islands, went to war with Japan,
well, he talked
and they
about
enlisted monks.
Korea and Japan invaded
Okay, yeah,
Korea, and then China. The one guy fought off the British in Tibet, and then had to go fighting off the Chinese invading Tibet, and actually
right.
turned to the British for their help. But there's really no. It really is. It's a very academic book. He's
Mhm.
really looking at Buddhism in isolation, in and of itself, via its writings and via its stories that it tells about
Yeah.
itself. And so it's very much about the writings and his interpretation of the writings. But still, you get no sense. You really don't get a sense. I mean, it's like, what do they do all day? And what's the feel, and what's the overall, but I guess there is no centralized authority. That's the other thing, is that you sort of take for granted there's this guy in Rome and he cracks the whip and everybody falls in line, and there's none of that in Buddhism.
Well, there isn't. I mean, there certainly was in Tibet. Not only is the head of the religion the chief monastic figure, he's also the king of the
Right.
country. And Yeah, so the Dalai Lamas really did control all of
But that's
society,
Tibet. But
including
all of
including the
Buddhism,
laws. Yeah,
right? But you don't have something like the Pope that controls all of Catholicism.
all of it isn't because it did split. It and then it died out in India, and he actually pushes the point that it died out because it just stopped being as popular. That
Hmm.
other traditions came along and replaced it. It wasn't. I guess it wasn't violently overthrown or anything like that. But another approach to a book like this could have been, let's look at the Tibetan tradition. What's the line? What's the timeline for the Tibetan for all of the Buddhist masters or the Buddhas, right? There it starts with Shakyamuni Buddha, and then there's Nagarjuna. We're still in India at this point, and then there's this guy from Nalanda University. No, is it Nalanda University? Nalanda University, named Tilopa, who then no, sorry, Marpa, who teaches Tilopa, who teaches um, Naropa, who teaches Milarepa. I may have this lineage wrong, but this is actually fascinating. Each of these characters as stories within the tradition of Buddhism, they all have, rites of passage. There's a little hero's journey that works for each one. Milarepa is the most interesting in a lot of ways because he was practicing witchcraft and then he did something terrible for revenge. And then he found his meditation master. And that was the story of the meditation master was like, yeah, I want you to build 10 towers on this hill, and I'll be back in 10 years. And he builds the 10 towers for his master. And the master comes back, goes, what are you doing? I didn't mean this hill. I meant that hill. And then he built them on that hill. And I mean, I think it was, I think it was Tilopa who achieved enlightenment when his meditation master slapped in the face with his shoe. I mean, there's great stories. None of them are in this book.
Hmm.
He's really looking at it in this kind of
Very academic,
very
very
academic way.
text based,
Yeah,
and so it's kind of dry.
it
And you
is.
really get a sense like, how do these people live? Like, what did they get? Do we talk to any of them? Do we ask any of them like
Yeah,
what they got out of it? Like, whenever there's a discussion of Christianity, you have people talking about how Christianity affected them. You have people making statements like, "Yeah, it changed my life," or "I think it's really important. This is what I think is important about Christianity." But there's really no discussion with people. There really isn't.
it's funny. And a figure like Nagarjuna is ripe for this. And he lives at a time that corresponds with the mathematicians in Persia, I think, or India, discovering the concept of zero. And what is Nagarjuna teaching? Emptiness. And although the Buddha taught no self, and you can read that sutra, the second sutra, in which he goes through the five skandhas, which are the five modes of perception, according to the Buddha. It's not our five senses. It's not taste, sight, smell, sound, touch. It's form. I'm going to get it wrong. Form, feelings, perception, thoughts, and consciousness. And in each of these, he points out there cannot be a self to his students when he gives that teaching. Now, is that emptiness? Sort of, right? No self does actually equal emptiness if you extrapolate, which is what Nagarjuna did. And he comes up with the concept that all phenomena are basically empty of form, feeling, perception, thought, consciousness. They also have no self. So a tree is a tree only insofar as we give it a thingness. We give it a boundary and we say a tree has a certain lifespan and it looks this way and it has these leaves in this way, but there's nothing treeness about it. So, I mean, I guess in the Greeks, you would go to, is it a Parmenides or Heraclitus? But, the one in which it says everything is in flux, there are no forms. And then Plato comes along and says, no, there are forms, tree is treeness, etc.
Right.
Nagarjuna is basically saying the all of these concepts that we put on the world and on ourselves have no inherent existence outside of our own thoughts, and our thoughts are fleeting and impermanent.
Hmm.
Therefore, emptiness is the state of reality. And emptiness in this case means something that has a kind of a potential. It's workable. So it's not dark and bleak. We should be glad that things have an empty nature, because otherwise nothing would change. We would live in a static universe in which no change would be possible. Um, and so that's revolutionary. And yet when he talks about Nagarjuna, it's not about the ways in which he kind of revolutionized the thoughts that were coming out of Buddhism at the time. It's all in terms of, well, the Madhyamaka was the Mahayana, and they were in a struggle against what they called the Hinayana, which is actually a derogatory term. So it referred something like Theravada, but it wasn't exactly Theravada at the time, which I think formed later. And it's more like the struggles within Buddhism,
The schools.
the schools. Yeah, all of the conflicts are what this book is about.
And it's really boring.
Because there's more to it, right? Like there's actually for how exhaustive this book was, there's more that could be said.
Like, how about spirituality?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about, I mean, it's just, to a certain degree, it's just an incredibly it's like somebody an AI that, it's like there's the famous, like the worst movie ever made. There's this famous movie that, in fact, the movie was made about it because it was considered the worst movie ever made. I forget, it's called like The Room or something like that. It's a very famous, it's this guy who made a movie and people just say it is the most hideous movie ever made. And as one critic put it, it's as if you fed an AI every single book. You gave an alien every single book about filmmaking ever written, but the alien has never actually seen a film.
I want to see this movie.
I think the movie's called The Room, and there was a movie made about the making of The Room.
Oh, nice.
Which is supposed to be a comedy, sort of a comedy bio. But again, it's almost sort of like it's a book written by somebody who read every history about Buddhism, but has never actually, there's nothing fun, there's nothing heartwarming in it.
Right. But he has, I mean, I don't know that he's actually a practitioner, but he's been teaching the history of Buddhism his whole career. It's his specialty.
Yeah.
So this isn't his first rodeo. He wasn't coming at it from nothing. Maybe it was just like he was told, don't include any of the stories.
Don't get them. That'd be a great name for a history of Buddhism. Not my first rodeo. How Buddhism came to the West.
Yeah, that's good.
But anyway, I'm sort of glad to a certain degree, if you want to talk about emptiness, I really feel empty about Buddhism. Like I read,
it's appropriate.
500 pages. And I feel like I understand maybe a little bit of the history and a couple of terms and things like that, but I don't feel I really understand anything about Buddhism, like what it meant to people,
right,
and what they got out of it, and how it enriched them or didn't.
It's true. He only talks about the motivation amongst the very wealthy. They were so afraid that they would be reincarnated in lower form. They wanted to decrease their negative karma from ruling, apparently, which is probably, you could probably accumulate much more negative karma by being a king than by being a peasant. And they were maybe afraid, right? Because, all of these early traditions started in the Vedic traditions. Probably karma was first and foremost. And they're like, oh man, I don't want to come back as a rat.
Right.
Or worse. I better build a temple for these people. Build a monastery. But could that, Ashoka, could that have been his only motivation for trying to preserve the books, to preserve the sutras? Ashoka was the first king to kind of pick up the cause of Buddhism and start, really seriously donating money and builders to that religion. I don't know, man.
Well, what are we going to do next? Because I'm done.
Not this. Yeah.
I'm out. Do we have anything on the runway?
I think I sent a couple of things. to you.
Guests, you mean, or
What was it? No,
topics?
yes, I thought so. So Balaj, you remember Balaj?
Yes.
Balaj recommends Common Ground, the turbulent decade in the lives of three American families, and it's about the busing crisis in Boston. So a nice, hearty, uplifting read that will cheer us up. From no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
Well,
Why?
no, I'll read it. Did that book actually win the Pulitzer Prize, or is it just the Pulitzer Prize winning author?
Um, no, it's the author has won the Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we don't have to do that. That's I'm making a suggestion.
Well, no, I mean, okay.
We've done Rory Sutherland, but he keeps coming up in my experience.
Right.
Beyond that, I'm a bit at a loss as to what we should focus on next. Like you and I should have a powwow.
Yeah.
What are we interested in?
Nothing.
Not
Emptiness.
emptiness. I can tell you about
Empty.
Let me tell you about emptiness.
Let me tell you.
Emptiness?
Let me tell you about my mother. I don't know. I'll give it some thought. The problem is we can't really do visual arts because it doesn't play well on a audio only podcast.
You keep
Talk
thinking about the
visuals.
audience like they're actually out there.
You're right. See, it's sort of a Buddhist podcast.
In a
It's a
weird way.
podcast with no listeners. It's the sound of one hand clap. You want to know the sound of one hand clapping? Listen to Funny Not Funny with Jim and Lionel.
That's
This is
right.
about one hand clapping as you're going to get on this planet. Does a tree make a noise if it falls in the forest noise there? Find out. Come to Funny Not Funny, where the tree
This
falls
week-
all the time. There's nobody listening.
There's nobody to hear it.
Nobody.
It's true. Did we even make an episode?
An episode on emptiness.
My friend Dan can clap with one hand. He's double jointed in this weird way, and he can flap his hand over so that it hits the palm. He can flap his fingers over so it hits his palm, and it makes a clapping noise. And he met the Dalai Lama, and he said, "I know the sound of one hand clapping." And he clapped one hand.
And did the Dalai Lama kick him in the nuts, which is what I would have
Dalai Lama
done.
laughed uproariously because that's just how he rolls.
That's how the Dalai Lama rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it might be fun if we picked 3 movies of a great director. Like,
Oh, great idea.
um,
I know. Wim Wenders.
Wim Wenders, whatever. And
Yeah.
you pick a director, and you pick 3 films.
Yeah, I mean, I think one should be A Perfect Day. I haven't seen it yet, but that's the one where it takes place in Japan.
Don't tell
and
me. Don't.
Yep.
Nope.
A Perfect Day. And
So
then
what
I would try
I'll
and
put
pick
together
2
a
more.
list. I'll put together a list.
And not the typical Wim Wenders that everybody's seen, but something more recent. That one and his latest. Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to do Tarkovsky. We're not going to do who's the other guy, the one that Bob keeps telling me about, the guy who did the Turin Horse. They're like 4-hour long movies with he does like single shots that last for 20 minutes with one camera. No, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
We're going to do like films that people actually watch. I've seen so many of the Klaus Kinski and that guy. Like Fitzcarraldo, Aguirre, Wrath of God, that guy. But it might be interesting, and maybe it's a genre. Werner Herzog, but maybe it's not a director. Maybe it's just 3 movies in a particular era from a particular time. So Bob turned me onto an early Czech film, a Czech film from the 1960s called Markéta Lazarova, which is really kind of an intense freaking film. I don't know if there's anything else like it, but maybe like, Japanese cinema immediately post World War II, or the Italian realism, like the Bicycle Thieves thing. But what was showing next to the Bicycle Thieves? What were other people doing it?
Did we have Adam Shartoff on? I don't think we've had Adam Shartoff on, and he runs a podcast called Film Wax Studio. And he has got like 600 episodes, and he continues to interview independent filmmakers. And we could have him on just to suggest things to us.
Right. I mean, but it'd be good because it'd be structured, and then it'd force us to get off our fat asses and sit back down and watch some movies.
Speak for yourself, buddy. I'm doing my 45-second yoga almost twice a week, and
try to keep up with me, pal. I'm doing 40. I'm up to 40. I'm going to make the big move to a full minute next month.
Maybe. I'll down a couple of Red Bulls. We'll see.
Micro yoga. You know that high intensity interval training?
Yeah.
Well, this is low intensity interval training. You do it for 45 seconds, but you don't like fling yourself off the roof with a bungee cable. You just sort of like get up from a sitting position.
It's really short
and twirl your arms.
But it's also around. Really not intense.
Okay. So, but in the meantime, you pick 3 films and I pick 3 films.
Yeah.
And let's compare lists.
Yeah.
And then we'll take it from there. Or if you wanted, I'm
kind
of done with books. Kind of done with books for a bit now.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know, I like to do films or something like that.
Yeah. I'm down. I'm ready.
Okay.
Raring to go.
Okay.
Thank you, my friend. Oh, and I want to apologize to our listeners. I've been slow in releasing our podcasts. Yeah, they've been coming out kind of on a very relaxed schedule. We have a bunch of them in the can, and I'll be releasing them hopefully once a week. It may be on Thursday instead of Wednesday, in case you're sort of, I don't
waiting by
imagine
the door
that this is true. I don't think anybody's waiting in the cinema with the curtains closed, just with bated breath.
It's
gasping. Any moment now. Yeah, they'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, give it a minute. Funny Not Funny is produced by Jim Infantino at Slab Media in Boston. Jim Infantino and Lionel Casson are the co-hosts. Our website is funnynotfunny.net. The theme music is from the song Wheel from the album Utopia Revisited by Jim. The opinions presented by the co-hosts are ridiculous and should not be taken seriously by anyone. Our intended audience is literally nobody. If you're listening to this podcast, you should probably pause to reflect on other choices you've recently made. Please do not subscribe or leave a rating or review. It only encourages us to make more. Thanks for listening.